Justice Elena Kagan, one of the liberals on the court, told Hobby Lobby lawyer Paul Clement that if the court granted the challengers an exemption from the mandate, the health care mandate, a wide swathe of other laws, from Social Security to immunization, health coverage, would face lawsuits. You would, quote, you would see religious objectors coming out of the woodwork, Kagan said. Melinda Henneberger joins us now from the Washington Post, and Lori Windham is a lawyer representing Hobby Lobby. Melinda, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Let me go to Lori in your case here. As I understand it, so people understand the nuance here, your client, Hobby Lobby, basically does not want to pay for health insurance that covers things like IUDs, which he argues cause abortions because they basically prevent the continuation of life of a fertilized egg.
That's exactly right, Chris.
Okay. It's not about preventing conception. It's about the death, if you will, of a fertilized egg.
That's exactly right. They do not cover abortion in their plan. That's a long-standing policy, and they also object to covering drugs that they could produce what they consider to be an early abortion, which would be terminating an embryo before implantation. The government in this case has conceded that these 4 drugs and devices can work in that way. And so the science question is not before the court. The question is, if the Greens have a sincere religious objection to providing coverage and facilitating the access to these drugs, then do they have an exemption, or can the government impose it?
Your client is a Baptist, right?
Yes.
So he in terms of making his case, is simply saying, as a Baptist, he doesn't have any particular religious belief separate from his Baptist beliefs, basic Christian beliefs. In other words, he doesn't claim to be part of some small group of people that have a particular concern about this kind of health care issue.
No, these are beliefs that I believe are widely shared.
So Baptists would be eligible for this kind of exemption?
It would depend upon the individual beliefs of the person. And so there are, I'm sure, many Southern Baptists who share the Greens' beliefs and who would also object. There are maybe some that are not, but it would depend on the individual person who's bringing a claim.
Melinda, this is fascinating material here because there is the nuance here. It's not against all birth control. It's not a know-nothing thing. It's nuanced concern about abortion. You and I know the issue and the moral question there. This case, where do you see it going? Where do you think it should go?
Well, I do think it's really complicated, so I do not agree with those on either side who say it's obvious that this one way or the other. However, I don't understand how you could give some kind of blanket designation to businesses that are for-profit becoming being regarded as people with religious views. I mean, if you did that, I really do think it's important to see where would you draw the line, even if you only limited it, as Pete was saying earlier, to mom and pop, to very small organizations. I could have a religious argument that I don't believe in child labor laws. I don't believe in vaccination. I don't believe in paying Social Security. Whatever it is, I just don't know how that would be sort of narrowly tailored. And I don't understand how, since a corporation is really a legal fiction designed to protect the people who own the company from liability if the corporation is sued.
Yeah, let me go back to that. Let me go. There are 2 questions there. I want to get to the one you're into. Does a corporation or a company have a soul? It's not a person. How does it have a moral reality? In other words, what's a Baptist company?
I think the question here is,
what is a Baptist company?
This is a company that is owned by people who do have souls, who have sincere religious beliefs, and whose religious beliefs are being violated. I don't think it's right to say, hey, you have religious beliefs, and then when you incorporate, those go away, and you don't have religious rights.
But is it in the charter of the company that is focused on Christian values or Baptist values?
It is in the company's mission statement, and the Green family has always said we operate this company according to our biblical beliefs, and so that's something they're very serious about. They close on Sundays. They provide their employees nearly double minimum wage because they believe that's the right thing to do.
What other objections do they have besides to abortion, which I completely understand, but what else are they objecting to in terms of public life? Same-sex marriage, do they have a position on that?
They hire and they serve people without regard to their sexual orientation. So
even though that violates their religious belief?
That's not something that they are concerned with.
But it does violate their religious belief. So in other words, they decide when the affront is to them.
I think you have to look at the issue of complicity. Here, the government is telling them that they have to participate in providing something that could terminate a human life. And they're saying we can't be complicit in that. Now, they've said all along, our employees can have access to these drugs. That's fine. They can use them. They can make their own personal decisions. We just want to be left out of those decisions. And so the same thing would be true of other issues. Their employees can make their own personal decisions.
Right.
The Greens are simply saying, leave us out of it, government.
I guess this is opens two questions. One is the complexity issue, Melinda, and one is the question of standing. Where are you? You think the standing's the hard one. The fact that the company can't, you question whether a company can claim to be a religious entity.
I think they're both important. I don't think that a company can claim to be a religious entity because, say the court says, okay, as Mr. Clement said today, contraception is a very sensitive issue. If we then say somebody else's deeply held religious belief in, if we equate the person with the corporation they're connected to, if that's not a sensitive issue, then are we favoring one religion over another? I think the Establishment Clause says we can't do that. So I really do think there are enormous slippery slopes issues here, and I don't understand how the court could make those kind of decisions without favoring one religion over another.
I mean, one concern might be that real health there's always a health matter with reproduction, of course, it's a health issue, but a woman who's determined because of her health situation, I cannot have another child. And the IUD, for example, is a lot more effective than condoms or pills. And so she may just say, I cannot risk another pregnancy. What happens in that case?
Well, and this is what the government has said. But the problem is the government has already exempted tens of millions of employer plans from this requirement. And in those cases, the government isn't saying, oh, no, what do we do? All these women are on plans that don't have to comply. But with Hobby Lobby, they're saying, no, 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 you have to comply. So I don't see how the government can exempt tens of millions of plans because if you like your health care, you can keep it.
You know where this is headed? Back in the 60s, they were called conscientious objectors. And it was very tricky business. And Melinda, back in my day, to prove that you were a conscientious objector, you really had to prove that your religion basically had a problem with all wars generally. It was a tough standard to meet. Interesting to see at what point the justices here, including Kennedy, decide what their standard is about total commitment here in terms of having not to be able to obey the law. Thank you, Melinda Henneberg. It's great to have you.